The Avdut Avatar Doctrine. The difference between an avatar and an Avdut is that the avatar is the involution of divine into the human, and the Avdut is the evolution of the human into the divine.
I've mentioned in my book, I've mentioned Ma Anandi, my mind in my book. So it's all wonderful and great. What would you want me to say about her? I've already said what I have about her. In my book, Wings to Freedom, I've mentioned my experiences with Ma Anandi, my Ma. Of course, let me tell you one thing before I begin. I am a simple teacher. I'm not used to flattery. I speak English. I don't know the American ways. Sometimes they may like it sugar-coated. But in my book, I have called Anandimai Ma, as per, in my opinion, the only avatar of the century. She is the only avatar of the century. But common people around, they say so-and-so is an avatar, then there's a Durga Mata, and that's, I honor and respect them all. Maybe I'm not worthy enough to realize that they are avatars. Let's put the blame on ourselves. But I did realize that Anandimai Ma was an avatar, and because I saw that on occasion she cast no shadow. The other ladies who have seen, who claim to be avatars, or who are, maybe, may not be, they cast a shadow. And the experience I had with her, that when I was touching her feet, my hands went through her feet. There was no flesh, no bone. Now, if any of the avatars, or whoever you deem to be avatars, can demonstrate that, then sure. There are sure signs of an avatar. People have not studied the doctrine of the avatars. I think in my book, I've also, for your benefit, given the Avdut Avatar Doctrine. Who's read the Avdut Avatar Doctrine? Okay. So now in this I've tried to clarify as much as possible the subtle distinctions between an Avdut and Avatar, and the distinctions are very fine. Everyone is great. It's an evolutionary process. According to my realization, she was in every sense an Avatar, and I have never seen anybody go into Nirvikalp Samadhi with such ease as Anandimai Ma did. As a matter of fact, that can be told by the bhav that she is in. In my book, I have given 2 photographs of her. Right? Who has seen both the photographs? Now, there is a difference between the 2 photographs and the states of Samadhi. One is a bhav Samadhi and one is Nirvikalp Samadhi. I did not find it necessary to clarify that, as I left that for the reader to go ahead and make their own realizations, not judgments, but their own intuitions about that. And it is not so easy. And the other person who used to go into Nirvikalp Samadhi, but was very scientifically trained by Sri Yukteswar, his great guru. How many of you have heard of Sri Yukteswar? It appears you haven't. Because when I speak of Sri Yukteswar, I will always speak of Paramahansa Yogananda as his boy. Do you understand English? As his child. Do you understand? But when I speak of Yogananda alone, he is our beloved, a great being, a divine soul, and a great master. Do you understand? So this is how we do it in English. So when the Father is there, then we can take liberties to speak about the Son. And Yogananda was the spiritual son. At ease, at any time, he used to go into Nirvikalp Samadhi. And he demonstrated this in life and death. The only guru who came here, of course, Vivekananda came here, he had a different message. He demonstrated, the only guru who demonstrated this in life and death was Paramahansa Yogananda. Some people in America have started saying things about Yogananda, which I have refuted, and I have told them, look, if you can die and keep your body in a deathless state of radiant light 21 days or 1 month later, like Yogananda did, then talk. Otherwise, shut up. Have I made myself clear? So, there are people who talk, because this book came, so he was very closely related with Anandimaya Ma spiritually. There's a photo of them together, you all know about that. Uh, his was the most difficult task because he was one of the people who came upon the Christian world in America. And when he came upon the Christian world in America, he had to introduce the science of Kriya Yoga very sensitively and very carefully, which led to his softening the techniques of Kriya Yoga. I wouldn't say diluting, I would say softening the techniques. So I hope you appreciate this fact that the techniques coming directly from the Himalayas would be a little different in intensity than the techniques you have got through the Self-Realization Fellowship here, which was the difficult task. Firstly, Yogananda had to soften the techniques because people couldn't sit in lotus posture, they couldn't sit in the Indian style. So he started to start from the anatomy by giving them bone softening exercises where they could sit in a happy sitting position. Then secondly, he had to come up against an ideology of Christianity, which he introduced very gracefully, calling Babaji the Christ, Yogi Christ of the modern world. But if you ask me today, I would say, no, Babaji is not the Yogi Christ of the modern world. Babaji is the Christos, the Yogi Christos of the modern world, the Führer of Christ. You know what the Führer is? The boss, the soul essence. Everyone has this Führer, the higher self. And this you will know. I don't want to argue or discuss this. When you meditate, you will know who this lightning standing still is, who is the nameless one.
She was the bliss-permeated mother. I had the good fortune to meet her on many occasions and had many sweet memories in the aura of this divine being. One rainy afternoon, I left home in haste. I was homesick and I wanted to be absorbed in her presence. On reaching her ashram in Pune, I found the door to her room closed. I did not want to disturb her, but stood in the rain, my eyes transfixed on the door as if I would stare it open. It did open, but only after I had practiced rain yoga for 20 minutes or so, a mild tapa to wash away some negative karma before meeting with the divine, I thought to myself. She smiled and called me indoors, saying I was a stubborn child, and so I was. Before I sat, I proceeded to touch her feet, which she normally does not permit. But as I touched her feet, I was shocked to find my hands go through her bones and flesh to touch the floor. My body was electrified at that. I remembered that an avatar is an illusion of light in the illusion of the world. It can at will, to increase a person's faith, make one experience his or her body of light. No flesh, no shadow, no karma. How can a nobody have any karma? An avataric being is karmaless when it does work in Maya. It leaves no sanskars. It's like writing on water. When the unliberated student does his daily chores or work, he creates karma. It's like writing on the sand. Uplifted and wonderstruck by this experience, I settled in a trance-like state and saw her radiance flooding the whole ashram and the countryside. As my body elongated, my consciousness left it to expand and merge in her wondrous aura. I was blessed, and when I opened my eyes, the surroundings were still radiant with her presence. An hour later she said, "You are your own Guru. Go and spread the word of the Lord in far lands." And she went into Samadhi again. In all my travels and spiritual experiences, In all my meditations and direct experiences, the realization that has dawned on me is that Anandamayi Ma is the only woman avatar of the century. She is often loosely and wrongly equated with popular modern woman saints, yoga teachers, or others of similar names. We are blessed to have such divine avatars with us, without whom pure spirituality would have vanished from the face of this earth long ago.